Ed McMillen makes weird flash art games filled with poo, dark humor, and taboo topics, and he is an absolute genius. In case you don't know, he is the creator of, most notably, Super Meat Boy, The Binding of Isaac, and The End is Nigh. But there is a whole host of other games that he's made, but most of them were only available on Flash for browsers. He was also featured in Indie Game the Movie. His games are really edgy, they push boundaries, and they get people talking about things that they normally wouldn't talk about. For example, The Binding of Isaac is about a boy hiding from his mother because she's trying to kill him because God told her to. So he's down in the basement fighting off monsters of all kinds with his tears. It's pretty unconventional and pretty controversial, but his success and fame started with Super Meat Boy, a weird little platformer about a boy with no skin trying to save Bandage Girl from Dr. Fetus. And this platformer, along with Mario and Celeste, has gone down in history as one of the greatest platformers ever created. I'm Brandon, my wife Nikki and I make videos about all things game dev, and this is a deep dive on the level design of Super Meat Boy. So what's interesting about Super Meat Boy compared to, say, Mario, is that Super Meat Boy has a very, very basic moveset, and it never changes. In most Mario games, he gets some sort of different suit that changes his moveset that then changes how you play the game. Super Meat Boy is much more simple and pure. Your moveset literally never changes. You can walk, run, jump, and wall jump. That is it. What changes are the levels themselves. They build on themselves and build on themselves, slowly forcing the player to master certain elements of the game. And then it'll take that and twist it around to make it even harder. But how do you do this at a good pace? How do you ensure that your players end up understanding the rules of the game and mastering them well enough to play such a difficult game? And Super Meat Boy does get extremely difficult very quickly. So let's dive in and find out. So we're starting right at the beginning, and embarrassingly enough, I had to Google how to delete my save file so that I could start fresh, but I got it done. Level 1. You literally cannot die here unless going off screen counts as a death. But the only thing Ed wants you to master in this level is jumping. You have to hold the jump button down to get up here to be with Bandage Girl, so now you understand how the variable jump works. And now you're done. Next, this little picture up here shows you that you can die from a saw, but you can't actually touch the one in this level yet, so it's just a little bit of foreshadowing he's using. But in this one, you have to wall jump to get to Bandage Girl, and again, you cannot die in this level. And this one is just a gap, though it is the first time you can actually die in the game, but it's pretty inconsequential because you just spawn right back instantly. So in this one, you have to run and jump as high as you can. There is no other way. You won't make it unless you do those two things together. You'll see a lot of that in Ed's level design. He'll give you a problem, which is the level, and you are forced to figure out the solution, and you're stuck until you do. Also, it's worth noting that we are only on level 3, and we've already learned all of Super Meat Boy's movements. 3 tiny little levels, and we've already mastered the basics. But as good game design goes, games should be easy to learn, but hard to master. And that is very much the case with Super Meat Boy. Now, level 4, and this detail is very important, there is nothing new here. It is simply a level to reinforce what you have already learned. He really, really wants to make sure that you know how to wall jump. Next level, same thing again. He's just reinforcing that you know how to use the wall jump properly. Now we're on level 6, and this is the first time we actually have something that can properly kill us that's not just a hole in the ground. And actually, if you pay attention, he shows you what happens if you touch a saw, because up here, the squirrel is going to run into the saw and die. Poor little guy. Level 7. If we didn't know that we could bounce from wall to wall, we are forced to learn that now while avoiding saws. Next level, more jumping, more saws, more reinforcing. Now, the next two are really cool how they're laid out. First, we're introduced to these blocks that disappear after we've been standing on them for a second, but we're really unlikely to die here because the timing is really generous. So we kind of just speed our way through. But in the next one, now that we know how those blocks work, we are now forced to remove these blocks before we can proceed forward. And you'll notice this is how Ed McMillan creates his levels. He'll introduce something brand new, and when it's new, he'll make it really easy to deal with. Then he'll twist it around and make it a lot harder to deal with. Then later on, he'll take that harder version of the mechanic and combine it with other harder versions of other mechanics, which makes things even more challenging. In fact, if you look at this spreadsheet for the first chapter, we have our new challenges that the levels throw at us and new things that can kill us. And the first few levels were all just about mastering our movement. Everything that's blank is just reinforcing what we've already learned. And so far, we've only come across a few things that can kill us. We'll come back to this soon. Skipping ahead to 13, we are introduced to our first saws that actually move up and down and left and right. 2 levels after that, we are introduced to saws that shoot towards us. So it's no surprise that the level after that has saws shooting down at us. But then again, the very next level, we get a new saw that spins on an axis, which is a lot harder to avoid. And the next several levels are all reinforcements with progressive difficulties until we get to the boss stage, which appropriately is a chainsaw boss. Now that we're here, we have to use everything we've learned in the last 20 levels, and we are forced to speedrun the level to avoid death, all while dodging saws and breakable walls, and watching the entire forest fight back and throw themselves at the boss. Now, you can see if we look at our spreadsheet again, the first 10 levels were really just about introducing new mechanics. The 10 after that were more about upping the challenge by throwing more things at us that can kill us. Chapter 2 follows very much the same formula. Level 4 introduces fans. Level 8 has you playing in the dark, which makes the hazards a lot harder to see. Level 10 introduces a key, and the next one has a key that unlocks a wall of locks. And just like in chapter 1, there's a slow drip of new things that are introduced that can kill you. In level 1, there's biohazard material, but there are still saws in here, so you know that you're not safe from old hazards. Then we actually get enemies in level 7. Remember the wall of locks I just mentioned? Well, those walls, as they unlock, they start introducing new hazards to you. It's just saws for now though, which you're familiar with. New enemies in 13, lasers in 16, and a wall of locks that unlock lasers that fire at you in level 18. And then again, we have a boss level which incorporates almost everything we just learned into one really difficult level. And again, we're forced to speedrun the level because we have the biohazard material rising up to kill us. Here's the spreadsheet for chapter 2. And the rest of the entire game continues like this. It is so simple yet so effective. It's a slow drip of new challenges and level mechanics that push your movesets to their limits, and all the while introducing new things that can kill the player to keep things engaging, interesting, and challenging. If you liked this video format, then give this video a like. I really enjoyed doing this kind of deep dive analysis, so I would love to know if you guys want more of them, and if so, what game should I cover next? Thank you so much for watching, and if you want another analysis style video, we have one right here that covers Hollow Knight, Celeste, and Stardew Valley. Bye. I'd like to give a very special thank you to all of our Hall of Fame patrons: Jakob Yondok, Christopher Nichols, Zondra Kessler, Fontaine Waite, Brainwaves to Binary, Couch, KB at Birdtech Games, and Ian Oral, as well as our early access patrons: Ken Waite, Mason Crow, Liquid Egg, Alexander Prestis, Jude Greaves, Felipe Gomos dos Santos, Ober, Francesco Latamata, Bill Guo, Alone on Mars, Alex Friedman, Danny Rathliff, Neil, Ben Kerberger, Minton Tran, Maurizio Tolfa, Stephanie, Jamie, Kev, Connor Burnham, Kyrandranos, and Ro E. If you choose to support us on Patreon, you can get early access to all of our YouTube videos, monthly alpha builds, and more.